This is episode number 148 of the Guns Magazine podcast. Hi there, and welcome to the Guns Magazine podcast, one of the shooting world's most listened to gun talk programs. I'm your host and the editor of Guns Magazine, Brent. Thanks for joining us as we talk to the interesting folks who make up the world of shooting, hunting, law enforcement, and the firearms industry. First, before we get started, I'd like to ask you to take a second and subscribe to the podcast while I share a few words about our sponsor, 1791 Gunleather. Centuries ago, the original patriots of this country fought and died for the promises they protected in the Constitution. Chief among those promises was the right to bear arms. Now, generations later, 1791 protects that right and our firearms. Makers of the 2020 Holster of the Year, every 1791 holster is a mastery of craft and function, customizable to any firearm you require. 1791 Gunleather provides quality and service in the way only an American company can. Please visit 1791gunleather.com for more information. Today we're examining a topic ripped from the headlines as I talk to Amy Robbins, a mom, runner, and the founder of Alexo Athletica. This comes on the heels of the murder last week of Eliza Fletcher in Memphis as she was taking a morning run. Amy's company is focused on athletic wear, and she's a huge proponent on educating women why it's necessary to carry self-defense tools, even when you're exercising, walking, or running. Now here's Amy Robbins on ways for women to stay safe when they exercise. Well, good morning, Amy.
Hi there. How's it going?
It is going fantastic. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us.
Hey, well, anytime you are asked to come on the Guns Magazine podcast, you say yes. So I'm excited to be here today.
You flatter us, and I think we're going to have a really good chat today. You are the CEO and co-founder of Alexo Athletica, which was started in 2017. It's a company that focuses on concealed carry clothing, and they've kind of branched out from there. She came to mind immediately when we were talking about this issue of ladies that are out exercising or running or doing what they're doing, and then they get abducted. And that came up, if you followed the news last Friday, a lady named Eliza Fletcher from Memphis, Tennessee. She's a school teacher and a mom, and she was out running her early morning run, and she was abducted and later found murdered. And the guy that did it, they've got in custody, is a career criminal who's done the same thing before. And that brought to mind, it was covered pretty extensively in the national news, and felt like we ought to talk about this and talk about the idea of ladies protecting themselves. And like Amy said before we got started, she wants to present some solutions. So Amy, I was reading on your website, you really got interested in this whole concealed carry thing after having a quote unquote bad experience while you were training for a marathon. Can you share that?
Yeah, I mean, this story hits very close to home for myself and 80% of other runners and walkers out there. So I was, training for the Dallas Marathon back in 2015. And at that point, I did not carry any self-defense tool on my body. I felt like I was in a very safe rural area. I ran the same routes every single day. So really never had any type of aha moment that forced me to start thinking about my safety until one day I went out at the same time and I was on my normal route and I saw a big van a couple of miles away stop where they were going and turn around and follow me. And as the van got closer, I could see it was a van full of men. And they kept getting closer. They slowed down. They rolled down their windows. They started making some pretty harassing remarks and doing the cat calls. And they drove to the end of the road. But then they stopped and turned around and came back and did it again. And it was at that moment that I was like, oh no, this could turn bad very outquickly. Yeah. There's 7 of them. One of me, I'm not fighting them off. I'm fast, but I can't outrun 7 men. Can't outrun them in a car. Yeah. And I tell people that my story ended there. Thank God they drove off. It didn't escalate beyond the harassing and the catcalling, but it did get me thinking about my safety. I ran home. I said, I will never feel defenseless and helpless again. I'm going to get my license to carry. And I did that. And then I was like, wait a minute. Now, where do I put it? I've got a gun. It doesn't seem very easy to conceal a gun in spandex pants or in running shorts. Like, so what am I going to do? And as I started researching, and I'd been in the firearm industry for a while before that, and I knew that there just weren't a lot of cute, functional options for women to conceal carry. And so I said, I'm going to do something about this. My background's in fashion. I've been a model. I know what women want, and I know that they want comfortable, convenient solutions to carry. And we're wearing activewear 80% of the day. So I set out to create an entirely new market, which was concealed carry activewear, and worked on it for 2 years and brought it to market in 2017. And it's crazy that, I started researching how many other women experienced the same thing. And I wasn't alone. It said up to 80% of women had felt like they had been, like their safety had been threatened. And we started to see more and more women on the rise. Concealed carry was up. At that point, it was up 500% since 2007. So that's a pretty significant jump. And yet no one was providing solutions for women at this point. And so, as we started to see, 8 million first-time gun owners in 2020 and people getting their license left and right, it was really time to start innovating and making some solutions that made carrying easier for women, reduce the barriers and get more people carrying. Because, it really was, for me, it was the most empowering thing I ever did for myself, was to take a hold of my safety. And the only way I really felt like I could do that was having a tool that would absolutely eliminate a threat if my life was ever threatened.
Yeah. You brought up that 80% figure. Let's talk about the scope of this before we go any further. Eliza Fletcher, they're saying this was, quote unquote, an isolated attack by a stranger. So that gives the impression, this doesn't happen very often. But like you said before we started, this happens every day. It just doesn't necessarily make the national news. It's a big problem. It's
a huge problem. And, most cities don't want to report this stuff. These stories end up, I follow it very closely, obviously, because it's my job, but I see this happening. I live in the Dallas area, and, they want to report that violent crime is on the decline. And then that's why they don't want to report that these things are happening, because they don't want people to think that they live in an unsafe area. They don't want people to think that they don't have crime under control. And yet doing that is actually doing a disservice for women, because it starts getting you in the mindset of false security and a false sense of safety. And, my biggest thing is, yes, I'm a proponent for women carrying self-defense tools, preferably a firearm if you're comfortable and you're trained doing so. But you got to be situationally aware first. You got to be in the mindset that says, today I am not going to be a victim. I'm going to keep my head on a swivel. I'm going to pay attention to the cars that are passing me. I'm going to take my earbuds out of my ears. When I go on my long runs, I need to pay attention to anything and everything that is around me, so that if I get that little voice inside my head or that feeling in my gut that says something's not right, I can make adjustments very quickly.
Yeah.
Because, contrary to what people think about people that can still carry, we're not out there looking for a fight. We're not out there looking to use our firearm. In fact, it's the very last thing I want to do.
Sure.
If I can get out of a situation first and foremost, I'm going to do it. But I have that tool as a backup to take care of myself if nothing else is working, because we got to face the facts. Here's the fact. Men are bigger, they're faster, and they're stronger than women. And we just don't typically stand a fighting chance to get out of the situation. The Eliza Fletcher thing is so heartbreaking because she didn't stand a chance. I know from the report, she put up a struggle to get in that car, but ultimately he won.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, he got her in that car. And when you're in that car and you have no self-defense tools on your body, the chances of the likelihood of you getting out of that situation go down drastically.
Yep.
And, people want to talk about, you brought this up, like the national news wants to talk about this stuff all the time. They want to bring up the fact, this was an heiress and she was abducted and this horrible thing happened to her. But the stories always end there, Brent. Like they never then follow up with, well, this is what this lady could have done to hopefully, get out of the situation. Maybe a gun would have helped, maybe it wouldn't, but at least she would have had a fighting chance. And, I've got a podcast that we started because I was tired of seeing datelines and women ending up on Dateline, but then having no solution to what they could have done to get out of that situation. And so I'm like, if I go on these shows and I talk about this, let's talk about what women can do moving forward to be proactive in their safety and, take it into their own hands. Because the facts are the cops aren't always going to be there to take care of you.
Speaking as a retired law enforcement officer, you're absolutely correct.
Well, yeah, I'm thankful for what they do, but gosh, you obviously know this. You've got seconds. Seconds are what matters. And then when you call the cops, they take minutes to get there. And you just don't have that amount of time, and much less really having the time to get to your phone in the first place to make a phone call when someone's beating on you or trying to abduct you.
Absolutely.
That's not going to happen.
Absolutely. We get there as quick as we can, but unfortunately, the reality is most of the time we're cleaning up the mess instead of preventing crime. So help me understand this a little bit. And I'm even thinking of some women in my life. They go out and they walk, they go out and they exercise, often very early. Eliza Fletcher was out at 4 a.m. taking her run, but yet they don't seem to worry about their personal safety, even whether it's rural, whether it's urban. What's the mindset there? Help me understand that.
I was in this mindset too. It's the mindset of nothing has ever happened to me. I'm fine. So most women, we find ourselves in a very reactive state when it comes to our personal safety. So for us to start thinking about it, we almost have to have like an aha moment that got us to that point. So you again, it goes back to that false sense of security. It's like, look, I've gotten up every day at the same time. We're in the same route. Nothing has ever happened to me. No one walks out that front door thinking today's the day I'm going to be a victim.
Right.
Today something is going to happen to me. It's not a type of mindset that we want to be in. We like feeling safe. We like feeling secure. And so for a lot of women, if nothing's ever happened to us, we just don't think about it. And that's part of the reason why, aside from making clothes that give women options to carry their self-defense tools, like I want to get women in the mindset of being proactive and think about it before something happens to them. And, it's just unfortunate that that is the mindset that a lot of women think about, because we're not traditionally looked at as the protectors and the providers. Traditionally that's been a man's role, but the role is changing, especially because moms are taking up arms. They got to take their children's safety into their own hands. And I think a lot of women are starting to wake up to it, but we still have a lot of work to do to get women to be in that proactive mindset.
Right. And talking about mindset, I want to go back to what you said a second ago, because I'm a huge believer in it, whether you're male, female, or whatever gender you choose, situational awareness. Too many victims that I've dealt with across the spectrum all said the same thing, more or less, which was, I didn't know what was going on. I couldn't believe this happened to me. It's because we walk around fat, dumb, and happy, so to speak.
Yep.
And we're not aware of the things that are going around us. We don't see that creepy guy down the street, or as you did, the creepy guys in the van that there's no good reason. They're just there looking for trouble. And you recognize that. But talk about, from a woman's point of view, this whole idea of situational awareness.
Yeah, the best thing that I can tell women is reduce the distractions, because first and foremost, you have to, when you walk out of the day, just take like a quick assessment, like almost a visualization of what your day is going to look like. Kind of walk through scenarios, and you don't have to belabor the point, but just think through, like, I'm going to get myself into the mindset that I'm going to think about where I park my car. I'm going to think about my surroundings. I'm going to reduce the distractions, like get your eyes off your phone. Don't be walking around with your head in your phone.
Yeah.
Just the things that happen. criminals are looking for the easiest victims possible, and they want the path of least resistance. And if you've got your head in your phone and you're not paying attention, you are very bunkable, is what I say. Like, they're going to come up and they're going to bunk you on the head. They're going to take your stuff, and, you know, they could potentially do even more than that. And so just reducing the distractions, just put your phone down. You know, pay attention to the people that are around you, and never underestimate that gut feeling that you get. If something seems off, it's okay to be weird. It's okay to be rude. If somebody gets into your personal space or they start encroaching on something that makes you uncomfortable, I had to learn this lesson as well, because, you know, I'm a good Southern girl, and you got to be polite to everybody, and you got to be smiley and friendly. But we're just at a point in our society where, like, it's okay to be rude. If someone gets into your space and you need to say, hey, just back away, you're making me uncomfortable. Don't be afraid to be outspoken like that. And, you know, I tell women all the time because I'm a firearm instructor as well. And I'm like, look, the confidence that having a gun gives you the confidence to tell someone to back up, you know, because if you don't have a tool to back up what you mean, and if I mean back up or I mean stop, like I mean stop. And the only way I can get you to stop is if I have a tool that will get you to stop, right? Because outside of that, you know, I may have to play nice because I can't continue to defend myself if you continue to approach me. And so it's like this next level of confidence. The firearm can give you the next level of confidence that says, I mean what I say. And if you don't back up, I can actually do something about it. And it was so empowering for me to finally understand that mindset. Because I always thought I was a pretty confident, strong woman. But until you can actually take care of yourself, you don't really understand how confident and how empowered you truly can be. And, you know, so that's like the mindset that I really try to get women into. And they think, you know, a lot of women think, well, I could never be that confident, or I could never stand up to somebody that way. And it just takes practice. It takes, you know, you got to walk with your shoulders back. You've got to walk with your head held high. You've got to make eye contact with people. There are very simple steps that you can put into place that will make you a less likely target. Now, will it always mean that you won't be a target? No, but it can make you a less likely target so that they overlook you and pass you up for somebody else that is going to walk with their head down, that does look like they're not going to put up a fight. And so those are just simple situational awareness and like some tactics that you can do that will make it less likely to be victimized. Exactly.
Don't look like a victim. Just don't look like one. Now, I'm sure you've had this conversation hundreds of times, but if you have females come to you and say, I'm really interested in defending myself, my family, my kids, but I don't know, carrying a gun, that just seems, you know, kind of out there. What do you say to ladies when they ask your advice on that?
Yeah, you know, it's a progression. This idea of getting into a self-reliant mindset and a self-reliant lifestyle is definitely a progression. Some people jump right to the firearm. Maybe they've been around them their whole lives, or they took the step to go get training and learn how to use them. And that's great. But for a majority of women, it just simply starts with just getting into the mindset of carrying some form of self-defense tool on your body. So maybe you want to start out with mace. Maybe you want to just start out because when you carry self-defense tools on your body, it puts you in a very different type of mindset. And so maybe start out finding something like, you know, I like the Kimber Pepper Blaster. It's easy to conceal. It's small. It's easy to use. It shoots up to 15 feet. So that gives you some good distance between you and the perpetrator. They've got, you know, Taser Defense has some cool products out there on the market, but just finding a tool that you can start to carry on your body to get you comfortable with the idea. And then what I found personally was, when I started actually thinking through scenario-based training, I said, you know, mace probably isn't really going to work in this situation. Or Taser, I still got to run away from this guy. So it was a progression for me. And I was like, I just got to the point where I said, you know what? No, I'm not even gonna go there. I'm not gonna waste my time with mace and a taser. I'm going straight to a firearm because if, these type of situations escalate, that is going to give me the greatest chance of stopping the threat. And, but again, I had to get there. And that was like a several years journey for me. This wasn't like an overnight aha thing. This was like several years of me like trying and testing different tools and like thinking through different scenarios. And it just truly like started to incorporate into my overall lifestyle. And that's how I settled on the firearm. And now I pretty much don't go anywhere without my gun.
Excellent. Love to hear it. And I wish more females in my circle would take that same advice.
Well, you know what it is? It's having women start to have these conversations more frequently. It's when women go out to lunch, brunch, we don't sit around and talk about our guns. We don't sit around and talk about our personal safety. It's just like not a normal thing for women to talk about. Yeah. And what I noticed was when I started getting into this, my friends wanted to talk about it, but it was like they didn't know who to talk to about it. And so the conversations are coming up more. And I encourage women, you might be the only friend in your friend group that carries a firearm. And stories like this Eliza Fletcher case are so beneficial because it gives us an opportunity to bring it up with our friends. A simple conversation of, hey, did you guys hear about this lady runner that was out running? Like, what would you do in this situation? And it gives you an opportunity to actually bring up the fact that, hey, I carry a firearm. And I understand like the stigma in this country surrounding firearms has been kind of on the negative side, but we are changing that conversation. We are showing women that, look, you can look like a normal suburban housewife, but you can dress this way. Here's your normal life, and you can still carry a gun. And we're starting to put a positive spin on it because we're empowering women to take this into their own hands. And so I just encourage, even if you are the only woman in your friend group that carries a gun, now is the perfect time to start leading by example and bringing up these conversations. Don't be afraid that, there might be some women that won't understand it and you might have to have a hard conversation, but like, don't shy away from these conversations. We've got to start having them and talking about them and making them commonplace so that we can potentially save more women from having this happen to them.
Excellent advice. Let's dive into training a little bit. You're a trainer. Trainers tend to be male, alpha male usually, sometimes alpha male jerk types. I'll freely admit that.
No, you don't say.
Guys notice that too, but no, I've talked about it before. We've trained mixed classes and we eventually started doing women only classes. And we thought, well, when we're training women, we try to make them harder than the guys because if they get into a problem, it's going to be up close and personal and it'll probably be violent. Yep. So talk a little bit about, I think that's one of the big things that stops ladies from thinking about concealed carry is getting training. It can be very intimidating and the wrong instructor can just ruin the experience. But talk about that overall.
Yeah, here's the thing. Like that was my number one goal when I started Alexo was I wanted to do things very differently than what I was seeing in the industry. Because my path into the industry was very different. I was a TV host, hosting a show for the NRA. So I obviously got a lot of training from, like you say, like the very alpha male types. And it was a block for me because it was very intimidating. And, I said, they kind of took this mentality of it's my way or the highway. Yeah. If you don't carry in this Kydex holster with these tactical pants, with this tactical belt, you're doing it wrong and you're going to die. And It's like, whoa. Okay, now you've just made me not even want to carry a gun at all. And so I said, I'm going to do this differently because there's millions of people that are not in the gun industry. They don't subscribe to this super tough guy tactical mentality. They just want comfortable, convenient, and make it simple. That's what they want. They want to make it simple. And it's like we overcomplicate things sometimes in the industry. And,
that's the first I've heard of this.
I know. And the my way or the highway mentality is so destructive to getting more people into this lifestyle. And so, I just wanted to make it easy, and I wanted to make it cute. And, I get ragged on all the time by the tactical guys. They're like, it doesn't matter what you look like. It's your safety. And I'm like, okay, but like we can still look cute and can still carry, we can, it is possible. And it's okay that I don't like to run with Kydex. I know that is like the just cardinal sin to a lot of tactical trainers, but like it's not comfortable for me. And so I still have trigger protection. We created this really cool custom insert with DeSantis holsters that gives double-sided trigger protection. As long as your trigger is protected and your gun is retained, like you can do this safely. And, I just have a very different perspective on that. And I wanted to make it easy because I wanted to reduce barriers for the everyday average American that wants to carry a firearm. And to me, we can make a bigger impact by bringing more people into the fold if you can simplify it and you can reduce the barriers of entry. And so, I stress training. I stress the importance of getting comfortable and proficient with whatever gun you're going to carry or whatever tool you're going to carry. You've got to train with it because you have to know, are you going to be one that carries with one in the chamber? Are you going to be a person that carries with your safety on or off? How are you going to carry? And you've got to get the training with it because every firearm operates differently. And the only way you're going to know that is if you get to the range and you go get your hands on your gun and you actually shoot it. You do need to shoot your gun that you're going to carry on a daily basis because you need to know how it shoots. Like I carry different guns throughout the day differently for different things. I carry like a Ruger LCP when I go on my long runs because, I just want something small that I don't think about. But if I'm going to the grocery store, I'm going to the movie theater, I'm going out and about, I might want something with a little bit more range, that's got some good sights on it, that I can get a good grip, that has a higher magazine capacity. I think through these scenarios differently. When you're running, your chances are you're not taking a 50-yard shot. Right. If I can take a 50-yard shot, I'm probably running away from the situation. It's probably going to be like this story. They grab you, they try to abduct you. And so you're in close quarters with somebody. So like a little pocket pistol, like a Ruger LCP, while I don't love shooting it at the range, it's comfortable for me when I go on my runs. And, I know my limitations with that particular firearm. Just like I know my limitations with my Hellcat or my SIG P365 or, whatever it is, you got to know your limitations with that gun and your proficiency level. And the only way you're going to do that is if you actually get in there and go get training. And so we're seeing this evolution of more and more women trainers. There are so many more women trainers. You can find them. They are out there. They're good. They make it very comfortable. And I will give you this, there are very good men trainers that are very good with women. You just got to find the one that you feel comfortable with. And, I found a lot of ranges are always so willing to help you. They are willing to show you how the guns operate. You can usually rent a bunch of different options when you're out of range and get your hands on it. And the trainers there are usually so helpful. And they want to see you succeed. And so, it's just a matter of finding a local range, maybe a local gun club that you could get together with your friends. I found that women love to make social activities out of anything. And if someone would just organize a good gun night, women's gun night, the chances are your friends will show up to go shooting with you. They just want someone to invite them and put it together and make it a fun, inviting situation. And you usually could get a good group of women together that want to learn about them. They just don't usually know who to ask to go learn about this stuff with.
And I will say that here's kind of the dirty little secret that guys can feel that way too. Sometimes you walk into a place and they feel very welcoming and, it's just a good feeling. And there's other times you walk in and it's like, who are you? What are you doing? You ain't one of us.
Yeah.
And my advice,
Yep.
male or female, is just walk away. There's other instructors, there's other ranges, there's other gun stores. So if and I do think the industry is doing far better trying to welcome new folks and females and what I'd call non-traditional gun owners that don't look like old white guys like me. So, you should be able to find a place.
You can. I mean, the demographic's definitely changing. African-American women are the fastest growing demographic of new gun owners. And so with that, we are seeing a shift in the people that are helping. There's always room for improvement within the industry. I mean, ultimately, all of us we really are all on the same team. We want to see people become safe, responsible gun owners. We want to see more armed Americans. I mean, that's what our country was founded on. And so it's changing. The landscape is definitely changing. And you can find someone that chances are that look like you, that will speak your language, and that can help you kind of break down the intimidating factors of firearm ownership and safe using. So
great advice. And, I look down and this conversation has just flown by. I've got so many more questions. I wanted to tee up a softball one so I've heard that guys that design apparel for women shooters, that doesn't necessarily work. But no, we don't have time for that. Perhaps we'll do another episode and you can come back.
I would love to. I've got a lot to say on that issue and would love to come back and talk about that.
Well, on a related note, though, let's talk about Alexo Athletica, your company. You've talked about it a couple of times, but tell us, what does it do and how can people find out about it?
Yeah, so we are an activewear company that provides built-in carry solutions into our clothing. So, and the majority of our products that have the built-in carry pockets, is what we call them, are going to be the bottom. So our leggings, our shorts, our joggers, our skirts. We have a full lifestyle line for men and for women to just make carrying comfortable and simple. And we just launched a whole line with Springfield Armory back in April. And that was a super exciting time in our company because, it's one of the major manufacturers that is realizing where the consumer is going, what the consumer is looking for. And they jumped on board. We did a whole 26-piece line for them. It sold out very quickly, and it will be back in stock for the fall here in a couple of weeks. So we've got everything. We've got complementary lifestyle pieces. The tops don't have built-in concealed carry, but they're all designed with carrying in mind. So they help conceal and cover whatever bottoms you're wearing and carrying your firearm with. So we've got everything from hoodies and jackets and flannels and joggers, sweatpants, leggings, sports bras, t-shirts. We have everything that you need to live your active lifestyle. And it's all just super comfortable. So you can go check all that out at alexoathletica.com right now, actually.
Excellent. We'll put that down in our show notes. And you are also a multi-talent, and you are a fellow podcaster. You have your Not Your Average Gun Girls podcast with Emily Valentine of Style Me Tactical. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so we started our podcast about 3 years ago now. We just saw that there was a major void in the podcast market for women firearm podcasts. And so, as we were seeing this rise of women gun ownership, we wanted to share and highlight the stories of everyday average people who, do incorporate firearms into their lifestyle. They do believe that the Second Amendment is super important, but we really wanted to highlight that the gun is not the only thing that defines their life. And, I think for so many times in the industry, it's all about the gun in your life. And I'm like, no, there's business owners that own firearms. There's fashion bloggers that own firearms. There are moms that own firearms. And so we wanted to bring all of those people together and share their stories, talk about the things that we love to talk about. I mean, I own a fashion company, but, I'm an avid runner. Sports, health, beauty, all of those things are very big and important in my life. And so I want to share all of the aspects of my life and also give you tips on concealed carry, firearm ownership, and all that. And so, yeah, the whole idea was just to have a podcast that is called Not Your Average Gun Girls, because, you know, there was a mindset that said, this is an average gun owner. You know, back in the day, an average, you know, what is an average gun owner?
Yeah.
You know, everyone kind of had this idea that popped into their head, and we wanted to break those stereotypes. And so, the podcast has just taken off. We have had some incredible guests, both inside the industry and outside of the industry. And we wanted to fuse those two worlds together. And so that's what we do. We have a weekly show. You can listen to it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, and we just started putting the video portion up on YouTube if that's your thing and you like to watch a bunch of people talking for an hour.
Yeah, we've kicked that around, but I've got a face for radio, so we may not see that anytime soon.
I will tell you, when it was just audio podcast, it was so much easier. We didn't have to do our makeup and our hair and pick our outfits. And, now we got to put a lot more thought into it every week. So it does add another layer.
Just picking my jewelry it takes me too long. So no.
I'm sure, you got to think about those things, and the powder in your nose, all that when you do the video.
Well, Amy Robbins, great stuff. We encourage folks to check out Alexo Athletica and the Not Your Average Gun Girls podcast. And I certainly appreciate it. And we are going to get together again before too long. And I want to hear your opinion about guys designing gunwear for ladies. That should be pretty entertaining. So thanks for taking the time.
I would love to come on. Thank you so much for having me.
It was a great talk with Amy Robbins, and if you're a guy, it might be worthwhile to let the females in your life know about this podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, you might also check out episode number 45, a discussion of self-defense topics with well-known expert Steve Tarani. You also might listen to episode number 94, My 50 Rules for a Safer Life, and finally, check out episode number 134 with Roy Huntington about protecting yourself in an active shooter situation. If there's a topic you want to hear, someone you'd like us to interview, or you want to share your thoughts about things, please drop me a line at editor@gunsmagazine.com. As always, you can find us on your favorite podcast directory, YouTube, and at gunsmagazine.com. I'd also like to remind you to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of our great episodes. And while you're online, don't forget to check out our great sister publications, American Handgunner Magazine at AmericanHandgunner.com, AmericanCop.com, and our numerous special editions available for sale on our websites and at Amazon. Right now, the hot ticket is the DIY Guns Home Gunsmithing Projects number 30. Well, that's it for this episode of the Guns Magazine podcast. For the entire staff at FMG Publications, I'm Guns Magazine editor Brent Wheat. Now get out there and get shooting.